Meeting on Tuesday, September the 25th. Are there any changes to the agenda? Ms. Winter.
Thank you, Your Worship. There's no changes or amendments to the agenda at this time.
Thank you very much. Hearing none, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? Councillor Hendricks.
So moved, Your Worship.
Thank you. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor? That carries unanimously. Which brings us to item 3, consent agenda. Tonight we have 4 items, so I move that council consent to approve the following agenda items without debate. Item 4A, special council meeting of September 11th, 2018 minutes. Regular council meeting of September 11th, 2018 minutes. Special committee of the whole September 12th meeting minutes. Committee of the whole on September 18, 2018 minutes. And item 9A, a letter from Les Hagan regarding action on smoking and health to Councillor Stout. Is there any discussion on the motion? Councillor Barnhart.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I would like to exempt from that motion item 4B, the minutes of the special council meeting on September 11th.
Okay. So, is there any further discussion on the motion as amended? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Which brings us to item 4B. Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's a minor omission, I think, by a typo. I was sitting next to Mr. Hendricks at that meeting, and he wasn't shown as being present at on the meeting, so I just wanted to give credit where credit was due.
Fair enough. Can I get you to move the minutes as amended?
I would certainly do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Discussion on the motion. Uh, 4B. Okay. All in favor? Carries unanimously. All right. Okay, that brings us to item 5A, public hearings. Tonight we have one public hearing for bylaw 904-18, a land direct control redistricting. So at this time I will declare the public hearing open, and we're holding this hearing in pursuant to sections 230, 606, and 692 of the Municipal Government Act as amended. Legislative Services, do you have any comments?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to members of council and the public. The purpose of bylaw 904-18 for Elan Phase 1 is to amend the land use bylaw 796-12 of the town of Beaumont, and in particular Schedule A, land use district map, by redistricting a portion of the southeast quarter of 33-50-24-W4M from agriculture district in the rural services area to direct control district, Elan. Direct District 117 Elan. The notice of the public hearing was given in written submissions to the applicant, adjacent property owners, applicable agencies, and the Leduc County. The public hearing notice was advertised in the local newspaper on September 14th and 21st, 2018. I have received 2 written submissions that I will read into the record. The first submission I received to the town of Beaumont from Alberta Health Services to Mr. Wong, proposed land use bylaw amendment, Elan Phase 1. In reviewing this application, the amendments have been proposed to amend the land use bylaw 904-18 to change the land use from agricultural district to direct control 117, which would allow land uses such as parks, schools, and residential housing. Proposed land, when developed, will be serviced with municipal water and sewer systems. There are no records of contaminated sites or landfills associated with this property. There are no objections to this proposed subdivision at this time. Sincerely, Dragon Sakicha, Environmental Health Officer, Executive Officer. The next written submission is from Leduc County, dated September 25th, 2018, to the town of Beaumont. Dear Mr. Wong, your file number 0593-E01, Elan Phase 1 Redistricting Bylaw 904-18 Land Use Bylaw Amendment. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on this proposed land use bylaw amendment. Leduc County has no objection to the proposed amendment. District described in the file mentioned above. Regards, Kyle Payne, Planner 1, Planning and Development. Thank you.
Okay. On behalf of Integrated Growth, Mr. Wong and Ms. Raymond.
Yep. Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. The Department received an application to redistrict a portion of the southeast quarter of Section 33, Township 50, Range 24, and west of the 4th Meridian in the Elan neighborhood from AG Agricultural District in the Rural Service Area to Direct Control District 117, Elan District. The subject area is currently undeveloped and is located north of 50th Avenue, west of Range Road 243. The purpose of this application is to accommodate a range of dwelling types and densities in compliance with the Elan Neighborhood Structure Plan, while encouraging diversity in built form to achieve a more efficient use of land. This is the first redistricting application on the lands Beaumont annexed in 2017. The proposed Elan district allows for flexibility and diverse housing types that reflects the trends in the region, the market conditions, and best practices. The current land use bylaw does not include a conventional land use district that will accommodate the proposed development in the application area. In addition, the new land use bylaw will not be adopted until early 2019. Therefore, a site-specific land use district, i.e., a direct control district, is required to allow development to proceed, as the land must be appropriately districted prior to subdivision and further development on those lands. The proposed direct control district is consistent with the objectives and policies of the Elan Area Structure Plan and Elan Neighborhood Structure Plan. The Elan NSP was approved by Council on September 11, 2018. The NSP includes a variety of land uses that includes low and medium density residential, commercial, and urban village, and open space development. It also provides for lands for a school site to meet the needs of the community student population. The application was circulated along with the Elan NSP to civic departments, affected boards and agencies at the end of July. Comments were received from Shaw Cable and Ladue County indicating that they had no concerns with the proposed application. Notice of today's public hearing was sent to affected board and agencies, including the Ladue County and school boards and adjacent landowners on August 31, 2018. The public hearing was advertised in the local paper on September 14 and 21. Comments were received from Alberta Health Services and Ladue County indicating that they had no objections to the proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions of administration from members of council? All right, seeing none, thank you very much. I really appreciate the presentation this evening. Is there somebody that wishes to present on behalf of the applicant?
Yes.
Please state your name for the record and where you're from.
Good evening. My name is Yang Win. I'm the GM at Dream Development. Before I hand it over to my consulting team here, I just want to say a few words on behalf of Dream and our team of consultants. I just want to thank administration for their commitments and cooperation to get Elan to where it is today. When Dream acquired our land holding several years ago, we believed it was the right place to be. We couldn't be happier with the outcome of the annexation. Beaumont is a charming town that we are thrilled to be a part of, not just as a developer, but as a community member. From the Blues and Roots Festival to the Rural Roots Fair to the upcoming Beaumont Night Market, we're very appreciative of all the opportunities that Dream has had to participate in the vibrancy of Beaumont. I hope I'm not getting ahead of myself here, but hopefully Dream can reach another milestone tonight with the approval of the Elan district zone, and we can continue to move forward with our first subdivision application shortly hereafter. With Dream's expertise as a nationwide developer and builder with almost 4 years of experience, we're excited for the opportunity to continue building great communities in Beaumont. Again, to the fine folks who've worked diligently on Elan and guided Dream through this very long process, we can't thank everyone enough. So, Stephen, Kaylin, take it away.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Stephen Yu. I'm a planner with Invista Consulting. I'm here with Kaylin Stark, also a planner with Invista Consulting. We are here today to talk about Direct Control 117, the Elan District. Yeah. So today we'll be providing a background on Elan, the challenges that we faced, and what is being proposed as part of the Elan District. So I guess Joanne gave a really good background on Elan, but here's another one. We were here because of the Elan Area Structure Plan was approved last year in November, followed by the Elan Neighborhood Structure Plan that was approved at the last council meeting. And today we're here for the Elan District, which received first reading at the last in August of this year. When putting together the initial stages of Elan, we ran into a couple of challenges, and that included the Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board's density requirements, the timelines for the land use bylaw update, and contemplating alternative housing forms. With the EMRB's growth plan, higher density requirements were placed on new development in Beaumont and the region. And because of that, council has been seeing a lot more direct controls come forward lately. The current land use bylaw has larger development regulations than we are seeing in the rest of the region, which is why we're also seeing the town working on updating the land use bylaw currently. However, while they are updating that land use bylaw, the lack of certainty of when that will come forward to council has made it really difficult to secure builders, as we aren't sure how to prepare them and what that certainty of that timeline will be. So as a result, that's one of the reasons why we're coming forward with the Land District today. Also, the current land use bylaw does not contemplate certain housing forms such as zero lot line development, which does promote affordability, and as well as it is a much more efficient use of land, which is something that the Land District does contemplate. So the Elan District will allow for a variety of compatible uses such as residential, parks and recreation, and educational services. So allowing these compatible uses in the same district will allow for additional flexibility, so small changes will not need to come back to council for redistricting, and as well as it is following the direction that the land use bylaw update is taking as well. So I'm sure we're all quite familiar with the image on the left here, which is the land use concept for the Elan Neighborhood Structure Plan. The areas highlighted are the areas that would be redistricted under this application today. So over the past year, we've been working with administration on determining what was the best route to tackle these challenges, and it was determined that direct control was the best course of action. So we were able to prepare a district that looked at development regulations that were similar in the region, but as well as what was kind of being implemented in the land use bylaw update process. As well, although the land district is being proposed today as a direct control district, it is intended that it will be adopted as a conventional district through the land use bylaw update process. The Elan District will allow for a variety of residential housing forms such as single-attached, semi-attached, duplex, multi-attached, zero-lot line, and apartments. Currently, the only district that allows for something similar in terms of variety of residential dwelling types is the Blended Residential District, which is one of the newer districts in the land use bylaw. However, it does allow for a mix of single, semis, and duplex and multis, but does not contemplate apartments or zero-lot line development. So the next couple of slides, we'll be looking at how the same dwelling will be developed under the Blended Residential District, the Elan District, and as a zero lot line in the Elan District. So the first housing form we'll be looking at is the single detached dwelling, the typical front garage that you normally find in the town of Beaumont. We'll be looking at that from 6 different perspectives: lot width, lot depth, site area, front setback, rear setback, and side setback. And this would be for a 20-foot house. So in the Blended Residential District, we'll be looking at lot width of 10 meters. In the Elan District would be 8.5, and as a zero lot line, 7.6. So that is a decrease of 1.5 meters or 2.4 meters. In terms of lot depth, we are not proposing any changes. Your site area will be decreasing based off your lot width. Your front setback we were proposing to reduce it from 6.5 meters to 6 meters, so that's a 0.5 meter change, still allowing for those larger vehicles that are typically found in Beaumont to be accommodated for. Rear setbacks are not being changed at all, and side setbacks are going from your typical 1.5 meters to 1.2 meters, a 0.3 meter change. So then I know that's a lot of numbers, but what does that actually look like? So here are some examples. So we went through Google Earth and taking pictures through site visits to provide different images of what Beaumont currently is being built in Beaumont and what is being built in the region that fits under certain similar development regulations as the Elan district. So the next housing form we'll be looking at is the single detached garage with access from the lane. Once again, looking at it from the blended residential perspective, the Elan district perspective, and as a zero lot line perspective. So these regulations are very similar to the single detached front garage product. Lot width in the blended would be 10 meters, in the Elan district 8.5, in the zero lot line 7.6. So that's the same change of 1.5 meters or 2.4 meters. Lot depths, once again, are not being changed. Site areas are decreasing, again, based off that lot width decreasing. Front setback area, this is the one that's a little bit different. So we're going from 4 meters to 3 meters, so that's a 1 meter change. That brings the building closer to the street and providing a larger backyard for the homeowner. Rear setbacks are not being changed, and side setbacks are again going from that 1.5 typical to that 1.2 typical. What does that look like? So I have a bit of a disclaimer on this slide. For the example for the town of Beaumont, it was really difficult for us to find current pictures on Google and Google Earth of lane product, as there isn't that many built at the time that stuff was done. So the example on the left for Beaumont is a bit of an outlier because it is a corner lot and you can't see that relationship between that dwelling and the dwelling beside it, so it doesn't provide that good of an example. However, the other two pictures do depict kind of what you would typically expect in Elan when this district gets approved. So the next housing form we're looking at is the semi-detached dwelling. So again, for the blended Elan and the zero lot line perspective. So under the lot width in the blended residential would be about 8 meters. In the Elan district, we'll be looking at 7.6, and as a zero lot line, 7.6 meters or 6.1 meters. So that's a change of 0.4 or 1.9 meters. For that zero lot line, it depends on which side of that zero lot you are locating that dwelling on. Lot depths, once again, are not being changed. Site area decreasing based off your lot width. Front setback going from that 6.5 to that 6 meters again, same as a single detached. Rear setbacks, once again, not being proposed to be changed, and the side setbacks, your typical 1.5 going to 1.2 once again. And these are examples of what that would look like currently in Beaumont as developed under the Elan district and as a zero lot line. Okay, so then the last housing form we'll be looking at is the multi-detached dwelling. So there's 3 different types of regulations we'll be looking at for this. First one is the internal, the second one is the corner end unit, and the third one would be the inside end unit. So we'll start with the interior one because that one is a little bit easier. So the lot depth is going from 6 meters to 5 meters, so a 1 meter decrease. Lot depths, once again, are not proposed to be changed. Site areas are decreasing based off your lot width again. Your front setback is going from 4 meters to 3 meters, bringing that building closer to the street again, similar to the rear detached, single detached. Rear setbacks are not being changed, and there's no side setbacks on those. For the end units, for the corner unit, we're going from 8.5 to 6.4, which is a 2.1 meter change. Or the inside going from 7.5 to 6.2, a 1.3 meter change. Site lot depth not being changed again. Site area decreasing based off that lot width once again. Front setback the same 4 to 3. Rear setback not being proposed to being changed, and then the corner side setbacks going from 3.5 to 2.4, a 1.1 meter decrease, or the 1.5 to 1.2 on the inside, so the same 0.3 meter decrease. And that's what the multi-attached would look like. Okay, so in conclusion, the Elan district was prepared with development regulations that were similar to what we were seeing in the region, but as well as what we were seeing in the LUB update. Both of these things will help Elan meet the EMRB's density targets, but as well as help meet the 2019 construction season timeline. The Elan District also looks at alternative housing forms such as zero lot line development to promote more affordability and to have a more efficient use of land. And finally, although the Elan District is being presented today as a direct control, it is intended to be adopted as a conventional district through the land use bylaw update process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the comprehensive presentation on what we can expect to see in there. It's always helps to get the visual. Are there any questions from council? Councillor Hendricks.
Worship, thank you, and to the presenter, and thank you for all the various layouts. My question goes back to the carriageway of the roads and the engineering standards that you intend to work with. Separate curb and gutter sidewalk, or are we going to do monolithic curb and gutter sidewalk? And what is the carriageway width that we're working with?
If it's already on. Through your worship to Councillor Hendricks. So in terms of the roadway development, that would all the neighborhoods, for even the lanes, the Elan District does not change the engineering standards. So we would still be developing based off of what is currently approved under the engineering standards through the town of Beaumont's engineering department.
Okay, so my question is then, which standard are you using? Are you using a separate curb and gutter sidewalk arrangement, or are you doing a monolithic curb and gutter sidewalk?
My name is Ken New. I'm the engineer with Investec. So the separate sidewalk or monolithic sidewalk is dependent on the road classification. If it's a collect road, we use separate sidewalk. But if it's a local road, according to today's standards, it's a monolithic sidewalk.
Okay, so that's a question I'd have for our administration, because we pushed some time ago under, let's call it a different administration, that we had a monolithic curb and gutter sidewalk problem because of the timing, the life that we'd get out of that versus a separate curb and gutter boulevard arrangement, that the life expectancy of the product was significantly different. And then there's the carriageways, and we had the problem where the carriageways were narrowed, and then we got cars on both sides and school buses that can't navigate both sides if somebody else is coming the other way. So I guess my question really should go back to the admin on exactly what they're proposing to do within respect to these districts. So thank you.
That's correct.
Question for admin? Okay, just coming.
Through your worship to Councillor Hendricks. Monolithic sidewalks are currently being examined right now for inclusion within our revised general design standards. Alternative standards to the separate curb and gutter are something that could be looked at depending on the width of the road. Maybe on a local road it might be warranted, but it is something we are going to examine to be in context with, I guess, our regional neighbors. And in addition, with the school widths, we are ensuring that the schools are on a wide enough road that we can accommodate the school buses and the traffic and that sort of thing. So we won't allow it on a narrow roadway. Those proposals and those plans are put into place in our new MDP as well, which actually is requiring them to be on a collector road that is of sufficient width. So we won't be narrowing that.
So I can take you back in time under Mr. Alan Yamashita when he was Director of Engineering. We did a study on monolithic curb and gutter versus separate curb and gutter sidewalk boulevard arrangements, and significant difference in the lifespan of either product. We seem to be replacing monolithic curb and gutter on a continuous basis as compared to the other product, which had a length of life that most of us would probably not outlast. So I'm really concerned that we're going backwards. I don't want to go back into that discussion. And also, the carriageways seem to get tighter and tighter and tighter to the point where, cars on either side. Yes, there's an argument they should be parked in the back if there's garages, whatever, in the back, but the fact is they don't. And then you get the package in the front trying to pass each other, and then you get an extra wide vehicle like a bus finding its way in and out of that same subdivision having issues. And the other thing is simply the issue of the garage and the parking pad on the front. A lot of trucks in this town, and a lot of trucks with bumpers that already stick onto sidewalks, and and now we're pushing the depth of these. I think it's a meter that you're taking out of these.
0.5 meters.
Okay, so what happens there? Because we had a lot of complaints regarding that issue prior, and I think we need to stay focused on making sure we don't create ourselves any more issues. So, thank you.
Through your worship to Councillor Hendricks, just to tie in on that, if we do adjust to a monolithic sidewalk, that provides more room for the apron for the driveway itself, but those are matters that we will take back and address with our team, so thank you for those.
Right. So with that, that's where the problem came in. At the time, when the decision was to go to separate curb and gutter and boulevard, the setbacks weren't moved. And that's where the mistake was made. So then all of a sudden we started getting subdivisions where the setbacks weren't adjusted based on the change to the sidewalk. And all of a sudden our driveways are getting shorter and trucks are, and other vehicles are across the sidewalk. So I just don't want to go back to all those issues that we dealt with and hopefully cleaned up. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Stout.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to the presenters. Do you anticipate, excuse me, do you anticipate that there'll be a lot of semi-detached and multi-attached dwellings developed in the Elan, or will it be predominantly single-family dwellings on the zero lot line model?
Through your worship, through Councillor Stout, it is intended that the Elan neighborhood would be a mix of different types of housing forms. Let's go back to the one slide with Elaine's concept on it. Oh, I realized I had it at the end as well. For easy access, but let's scroll back. Oh, there we go. So the areas in yellow will be the ones that could be, that's where you would be finding either your singles, your zero lot line, or your semi-detached or duplexes. So between there, it's going to be a variety of mix, and that's kind of what is required as per the policies in the Elan neighborhood structure plan as well, to offer that variety of mix of housing types. So there would not be a predominant of one single housing type in the neighborhood.
Okay, second question.
Redirect.
So by a mix of housing types, we mean that all of those forms there'll be significant quantities of each of those forms. Is that correct?
Through your worship.
I guess it would depend how you define significant.
So, worship to Councillor Stout. So this question is more a market question.
Yes.
So this district zoning is just to allow we have the potential to build a different kind of different type of house format. End of the day, it's what the consumer wants and what the market decide. So right now we haven't decided exactly how to mix, but we have obviously we have a basic number, right? We need to meet the density 35, and then so that's what why we propose the zoning.
So there may then be a preponderance of one type or another, a big preponderance if market conditions move in that direction.
Well, that's the part, like I said, if the market decides, like at the end of the day, the developer has to be able to sell those units, right? If the market says there are so many duplex, for instance, is required, for us, we do have a proportional to mix it, right? We won't produce all duplex, but we have in area, let's say around the pond, around those area, we're proposing single-family house, and in certain area we're proposing duplex. That's what in the neighborhood structure plan we also did demonstrate that.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Stay.
All right, seeing no further questions, thank you very much for your presentation this evening. Is there anybody here wishing to speak in favor of the bylaw? Is there anybody here tonight wishing to speak in opposition to the bylaw? Oh, sorry. Okay, is there anybody that deems themselves to be affected that wishes to be heard tonight on this matter? All right, seeing none, we'll declare the public hearing closed. Thank you very much. Okay, it brings us to item 6A, presentations, registered presentations. We have, first item is an economic development update from Mr. Rob Mackin.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council, and good evening to you. I wanted to provide a brief update on what we've been doing in the economic development team over the last few months since I joined the organization. First of all, I would like to just take a moment to introduce our new team members. We've got Marlene Arana, who's our business development specialist here, and Stephanie Fisher, who's our economic development assistant. So you will see them out and about in the community significantly over the coming weeks and months as we progress the economic development priorities of the community. We've been very busy over the last couple of months attending the Edmonton Real Estate Forum, the Smart Airports Conference, Alberta Innovates and Ventures, the Rendezvous de Réseau de Villes Francophones et Francophiles d'Amérique, the French and Francophone communities meeting in Grande Prairie. And we are also going to be representing Beaumont coming up at the Growing From Here conference, which is taking place with the Leduc Chamber, and the Commercial Real Estate Breakfast coming up next week, actually. Beaumont's been asked to be a presenter on the panel, so I think it's good for our community to get that exposure. As well, we're very busy with the Edmonton Global work going on right now as we plan to have some specific actions coming to the region by January. In the coming weeks, you will see a new community profile being launched. It'll be a printed tool, a brochure. I was hoping to have a couple here for you tonight, but it'll be something that you can take with you that speaks of the key demographics of our community and our region. Also, we will have electronic versions available for you as well, Council. Also, we are currently launching, or soon to launch, a new website called investinbeaumont.com. And this was a major recommendation out of our economic development framework, and it is a site selector tool. It's going to provide an easy to understand web interface where accurate data is found in one location, and it's going to make Beaumont more competitive ready for investors and businesses. Ms. Winter, if you could just show us, this is a Sylvan Lakes, for example, guys, but it will be Beaumont, and the website will be investinbeaumont.com. If you scroll down to the first box there, for example, business climate, it gathers data from our sources, but as well as Industry Canada, Statistics Canada, the provincial government, and it's real time, for example, on our labor force numbers, unemployment rate. We'll also be able to put properties that are available in the community, as well as any other cost or business case details that an investor would be looking at specific to Beaumont. That we plan to have go live in November. We are also currently looking at a customer relationship management tool. I know some of you are very familiar with these in your day-to-day lives. This is a very effective tool when it comes to managing economic development and any sort of sales funnel organization. We're currently meeting with a number of vendors, and also I'm sitting on the Edmonton Global Committee that's looking at a regional tool set that can be used by all the municipalities. So my goal is we'll be able to get something that is interfaces with our regional partners, as well as looks after Beaumont's needs. Also exciting is we're working with communications right now to advance Project Refresh, and this is the brand refresh for our soon-to-be City of Beaumont. We've engaged a national award-winning agency who's got considerable depth and experience in refreshing the brand identities of communities like ours, and we will be coming back to Council in November with concepts for your input, and we plan to have this complete by the end of the year. We also have the Beaumont Co-work Incubator project, as you'll see up there. So Beaumont is home to a large number of home-based businesses and entrepreneurs, and co-working spaces are great options for these businesses to grow from. This is going to be an upcoming CARES grant that we are applying for in October, and it'll help us build a multi-purpose co-work space in the Centreville area of the community where small businesses, maker spaces, and retail pop-ups can take place. Also, we're working with a number of regional business groups to be able to host seminars and networking opportunities through this facility. This will be a real hub for innovation and entrepreneurship for Beaumont and for the region. We're currently working with the Northern Alberta Business Incubator in St. Albert to get advice from them and their support. They are very keen on working with us, as well as the Beaumont Chamber of Commerce, the CDEA, the French Chamber, and the Leduc Nisku EDA are all providing letters of support as well as assisting us in this matter. And finally, on the corporate partnerships, which is also a key part of our team's role within the organization, I'm excited to tell you that we now have the highest number of corporate partnerships in the Ken Nickel Arena that we've seen in over 4 years, and our goal is to have that rink completely sold out here by the end of this season. We're working with community groups as well as internally to make that happen. We also are currently developing our valuations for the Beaumont Sports and Rec facility, so we know what we can go out to the market for that and build a comprehensive corporate sponsorship program for our new recreation facility. That should be available here in the coming months as well, and we will be pounding the pavement and hitting the streets for that. So really, I want to, first of all, or I should just say, sum it up and close that commercial development in Beaumont is doing quite well. We have seen a 75% increase in our value of development this year over last year already. Much of that space that we see under construction is already leased or pre-leased, and some of those buildings that you have seen in the community are actively being built out inside. Also, we have many new exciting opportunities on the horizon, and I look forward to seeing those evolve over the coming year. And finally, I have a challenge, Council, and for those of you in the audience and in the public. October is Small Business Month, and I want each of you, please, to get out and visit a Beaumont small business that you have not visited before. Spending your dollars locally has a multiplier effect, and I ask you all just to keep it local. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rob. I really appreciate the update. As everybody's aware, economic development is probably the key objective of this council. So it's nice to see the strides that have come. We've come a long way and done a lot of things in the short time you've been on. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome Marlene and Stephanie to the team. Really appreciate you. Welcome to the team, and I'm expecting to see some great things. At this time, I will open it up to the floor to council members for questions. This is going to be one of them nights. Councillor Barnhart.
I thought I was second. I saw the light go on over there. Thank you, Your Worship. The question I have is just a little more detail, please. What I believe I heard you say at the end of the year, you're coming back with the result of the consultants' work on the strategy. Was that correct, or was I mishearing that?
On the brand refresh. By the end of the year. So part of our rebrand, as we become the city as our target, we're going to be working on an overall brand refresh for Beaumont. And
that's different than the strategy then? So the economic development strategy, I thought we were bringing that back.
So the economic development strategy will be coming back one more time. You've seen an initial view of that with the economic development framework out of the Centreville project. That is just being finalized, but we're already actioning a number of the items that were included in that, including the CRM, the site selector tool, as well as even the incubator co-work space. Those were key highlights out of that report.
Okay, sorry, I'm kind of losing track of some of the things. And let me just take this opportunity to thank you. I think you're doing a great job, and keep it up, keep going. But we wanted to be assertive and slightly aggressive on economic development, so thank you very much.
And that's what this team brings us.
No problem. Thank you.
Councillor Van Newkirk.
Hello, thank you through to the presenter. I think it's very important for us to have received this update here tonight because, as you can see, the team is refreshed and full of energy and working with a plan in front of it. And I think it's kudos to you guys for getting all that together, and definitely have the support of council for that. The work that's been done behind the scenes right now is table stakes to any sort of success moving forward. So although we're seeing some buildings around town and we're seeing some perceived lack of signs, that doesn't mean that they're not 60 to 70% leased or sold on the inside, and people are working on that and businesses are working on that. Another piece I think that you didn't include in your update that I saw that has been successful is just an example in the front entranceway and what you've done as part of greeting people that come into the office, and have rearranging who is where, and and seeing different faces up front. And I've definitely noticed that, and I know that others have commented to me that just arrangement of people and just that piece of it has been helpful too. Kudos to all of administration for that, and that's all I have just to comment tonight. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Councillor Daniluk. Oops.
Thanks, Mr. Mackin. Just a quick comment as well to your last comment. Really rang home with me about buying local. Everybody I talk to in town wants to spend money in Beaumont. They want to spend money here if they can, but many things they can't buy here. if they could buy them, they would.
Right.
And I know your team is working hard on getting some diversity in businesses and getting more things here. Personally, for me, a men's shop would be great to buy suits and shirts and ties and that sort of thing, and women's shops and so on. Women love to shop, and so I'm told anyhow. So they can spend money locally, that's great. I know your team's doing a great job, and I know our council's behind you 110%, so thank you very much.
For sure. And just to let council know, part of that economic development framework that we did receive has a retail gap analysis. So it clearly highlights some of those gaps we do have in our retail mix here. And now we will be building a plan to target some of those markets.
Once again, thank you very much. Appreciate the work you're doing, and keep it up. We'll
Thank you,
expect
Council.
this feature. All right, brings us to item 6B, unregistered presentations. This is the point in the council meeting where members of the public can come up and address council on topics that are not on the current agenda. Please come up. Reminder, you have 5 minutes. This is not really a forum for question and answer, although we'll do our best we can. If we can't answer, we will refer it back to administration. Is there anybody wishing to speak to council this evening?
That would be me. My name is Angela Pauls and I'm from Millet. And in Millet, we have a much smaller chamber, so I'm super nervous. So if I talk really fast, just tell me to slow down. I don't have a PowerPoint presentation or anything, so thank you for letting me come up here. And I will try to get through this without tears. Okay, you know what? Thank you. I tried, it didn't work out so well. So I'm sure you are all familiar with Janaea Chakowski here in town. Her most recent MRI scan says it's not good and it doesn't look like she'll make it to Christmas, so we're hosting Christmas October 21st. The Beaumont Curling Club has donated both upstairs and downstairs for our event. I put a call out on Facebook here in the community, and I was up until 1 o'clock this morning responding to almost 100 different messages of people that want to help, want to do something, want to provide whatever it is that they need. So what we're doing is celebrating Christmas. I've been to all of their neighbors. They're going to do up all their whole street with Christmas lights. We're going to have speakers, which brings me to the reason why I'm here tonight, is I wanted to invite your worship and any council members that would like to come to the event that day. It's October 21st. It runs from 10 to 5, but we are going to be doing our speeches, presentations, thank you, at 4 p.m. We do have a few different medals and awards that are going to be presented to Janaea that evening. We are looking to have a catered turkey dinner for the family once we're done the event. And we're also asking if the town would consider putting up their Christmas decorations a week early in October. So I guess a couple months early, but a week prior to the event, so that she can admire those while she is still feeling well. And we're also asking if the town would consider a $250 donation towards the catered turkey dinner. Should that dinner get donated to us, we would give those funds 100% to the family.
It's all right. Making notes here.
No, that's okay. I think I did it. And Melissa has created a beautiful donation letter.
I don't know if you guys
I don't know
want
if you would
copies
like
of
one,
them,
but we
or-
have one. There's several people in the community that are collecting silent auction items, Christmas decorations. I don't know what else.
Everything.
Yeah, they're just out there collecting everything for them. I'm not sure if we're missing anything yet, but we do have extra copies of that if anybody would like one.
Well, yeah, no, please drop one of those off with us, and then we can do that. Yeah, I gotta admit, this one hits kind of home for me. My daughter was in Janaea's class in Bellevue, so my daughter's quite up on the updates, and they come home, so.
I only just got to meet her family, her whole family, in July when they came to my store to get a wedding dress. And she is just the cutest little thing. And I mean, I have kids and they're all grown up, and I used to run a day home, and you know, kids are cute, but she really just stole a piece of my soul. Like, she's just amazing.
Yeah, so, yeah, no, so I really appreciate that. So I will make a motion tonight that council approve the donation of $250 towards the dinner to be funded from reserves. I know we have a grants policy and it's coming, but the grants policy speaks to type one-off events like this being able to come to council for this event, and I think that's the purpose of it. And so I have no problems making that recommendation tonight. Can I get some support from council? All in favor? Too far. Heinrich Brista. Okay, here we go. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Thank you. Quick question to admin. What do we do for Christmas decorations? Do we hang up?
Your Worship, I don't have the dates or the logistics available to me right now. I'm going to have to get back to you.
Okay.
I have to consult.
We're not going to commit to that one tonight, but we will look into it and we'll get back to you. Are there any members of council that wish to speak tonight to ask some questions? Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for coming and telling us this. I did catch it on Facebook and was wondering how we could help, so you gave us a way, so thank you for that. I just wonder if the mayor is available on that day, or that you have to take that under advisement as well?
No, I checked my schedule.
Yeah.
I had a bit of an advance warning this might be coming.
You're welcome. Sure we get somebody
I'll
there.
make sure I'm there, so no worries.
Yeah, I think that would be...
Yeah, just Shima will follow up tomorrow and get it in my schedule. And
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Is there anybody else wishing to address council this evening?
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council and the public. I'm just here on the same topic about the cannabis bylaw that I know is going to be discussed tonight. I continue to be in favor of the bylaw. I've read the letter from Les Hagan where he's suggesting that you don't proceed, which is kind of not very good timing to suggest that because the deadline's coming up pretty soon. But there's a number of residents in Beaumont who are happy with what you've put together and would like to see this bylaw passed tonight. And that is all I had to say. And I'm putting down my address and name this time. Thank you.
Thanks. Is there anybody else in the audience tonight wishing to address council? All right, hearing none, we're going to take 5. Thank you. Sorry. Big on. All right, so next on the agenda, business items. Item 7A, implementation of the tax recovery process. Mr. Allen Harris.
Through your worship to council and the public, before you is a recommendation to have 2 properties enter the tax recovery process. It lays it out there. I'm not going to read the whole thing. But the most important thing in the request for a decision is that the property owner still has the ability to redeem or take it out of tax recovery process if they pay the arrears before December 11th.
Okay, as most of council is brand spanking new, can you just give us the high-level overview of what's happening so that perhaps we can head some questions
Your
off?
worship, to the rest of council and the public. Effectively, what's happening is that properties that enter into arrears are subject to tax sale. So staff make every attempt to ensure that the funds, we don't get to this process, but we have to reach, I guess, a climax in dealing with it. So under the Municipal Government Act, the municipality has the right to put the property up for sale. And then there's a process that must be followed, which has been laid out within this. So we have been in contact with the owner, and at this point, he does not have the funds to pay off the arrears. It's not, the arrears are not the total amount tax owing, it's only a portion thereof. So it enters that process. These 2 properties were one of probably 8 that were in arrears, and we spent a lot of time contacting, mailing out stuff, making phone calls, talking to lenders or mortgagees on the property, and have been able to collect on those ones. Unfortunately, On these two properties, we at this time haven't been able to. In discussion with the landowner, they're in the process of trying to rectify that and hope to have the funds to us prior to December 11th. And if that's the case, it will no longer be up for tax recovery.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the quick update. It should be noted for those members of council, this is a mandated process through the Municipal Government Act. We don't have a lot of other tools at our disposal when it comes to collecting tax arrears. Having said that, I know from my time on council, we had to do this a couple times and I have never actually seen it go to auction. But hey, it's always the first time for everything, but I've never seen it go to auction. But we should have to move through this process. So, is anybody prepared? We have 3 motions that we have to do ahead of us tonight. 3 motions, right?
Yes.
Yeah. 3 motions. So is there a member of council willing to move motion number 1? Councillor Hendricks.
Your Worship, just before we do that, and yes, we all live and die under the Municipal Government Act process and rules and regs. Typically, as councillors, we get more than just a roll number, just to ensure that none of us are offside with the MGA. We're flying blind here as far as this property, and typically we get a little star on a map that kind of gives us an indication that, where we sit as individuals with whoever this individual is, to make sure we're not contravening any of the rules.
Yeah.
Through your worship, to the rest of the council and Councillor Hendricks, is from Freedom of Information reasons we cannot provide the name.
Redirect.
Then I assume that although we're flying blind, none of us are offside with the Municipal Government Act with respect to this property that you're aware of.
Through your worship, to council, no, I do not believe that any of you will be offside in regards to voting on this matter.
Thank you.
Is there a member of council prepared to move motion number 1? Councillor Barnhart.
So moved, Your Worship.
Discussion on the motion. Councillor Van Newkirk. No. Councillor Stout.
Thank you, Worship. Through your Worship to Mr. Harris. I just want to get an understanding of this process a little more. So if I understand this correctly, we have an arrears of 4,000 and change on each property, and the assessment value is 180,000 plus on each property. So when we auction the sale, we use that to pay off the arrears. When we sell the properties at auction, we use the amount raised to pay off the arrears. What happens to the balance? Or am I misunderstanding what's going on?
Through your worship to Councillor Stout, following through is we pay off the arrears and plus the other taxes owing. The total amount is around $30,000 kind of deal. The money goes into an account depending on if there's vendors or mortgages against the property. They get paid out first, and then the money is there. The town collects 5% on the sale, as mandated by the Municipal Government Act, and then it follows the process going all the way through. So there is a process that's specific to it. So the town just can't take anyone's money. The town could bid on the property and purchase the property, but it is a process that the money stays in the account, and then the taxes get paid off, the 5%. Then it's about whether there's any liens against it, and then if there's any money left over, there's a process to apply for it. And if it's not applied for within 10 years, the town can apply for that money.
That's one more.
Redirect.
Are both the properties owned by the same person?
Through your worship, at this time, I cannot say.
Very well, thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion or questions or comments? All right, so all in favor? That carries unanimously. Is there a member of council willing to move motion number 2 that council set a reserve bid that is as close as reasonably possible to the market value of the respective parcels? Councillor Stout.
So moved, Your Worship.
Discussion on the motion. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Is there a member of council willing to move motion number 3 that council set the following conditions on the public auction? And they're there for a reading. Jeez, I'm not going to go through them. Councillor Van Newkirk.
So moved.
Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor? And that carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Harris. All right, which brings us to item 7B, boards and committee reviews. Ms. Winter.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to members of council and the public. At the March 27, 2018 council meeting, the mayor made a following motion. The council directs administration to review the committees of council, including terms of reference, committee composition, appropriate resource allocation, strategic alignment, and duplication. At the July 17, 2018 committee of the whole meeting, elected officials directed administration to bring back recommendations of council committees, composition, appropriate resource allocation, strategic alignment, and duplication to a future council meeting. In attachment 1 is administration's recommendations for review and consideration of the elected officials. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Winter. Okay, so before we get into this, because I know that there's a lot of committees on this chart, so I'm proposing that we break it down a little bit rather than go committee by committee by committee. I'm going to ask council to identify certain committees that they would like to debate, and then we will use one motion to pass administration's recommendation on the rest. Having said that, if we get a lot of committees that you guys want to go through, we might be doing this line by line. But are there any committees that we don't want to cover in an encompassing motion? Councillor Van Newkirk.
Hello, thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I'd like to exempt the Beaumont Sports and Recreation Committee from that discussion in the whole motion, and look forward to further discussion on that tonight.
Okay.
As well as the Beaumont Arts Committee.
Beaumont Arts Committee. Okay. Councillor Barnhart.
In the same vein, I'd like to have a discussion about FCSS.
Are there any other committees that we wish to have the single discussion on? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to move that council approve administration's recommendations on the remainder of the committees, except for those 3. Councilor Barnhart?
Sorry, Rich, I did have a question before we do that. When it comes to the library board, because that's it's not just, I guess it's our decision who we put on there, but it's also, I believe, in the library board's bylaw, how many they have on there. So I'm wondering if there should be some consultation with the library board before that decision is made. I'm just not sure the process there. Maybe administration would know. Can we just unilaterally decide that, or do we need to suggest it and see if we're okay with that?
Ms. Winder?
Thank you, Worship, through you to Councillor Barnhart. With regards to the Beaumont Library Board, by bylaw, we would have to amend the bylaw, but the act that we run by for the Library Act states that we don't have to have any councillors on that board. So we had, administration had recommended just to have one and one alternate instead of having 2. It was a bit of a duplication having 2 councillors on that board.
If I may, it's not that it's illegal to do. I'm just saying in partnership, I don't think we should just do it without consulting. That's my point. I don't know if there'd be an issue with it or not. We've both been going at this point when we can make it. When not, one doesn't. But it just might be, they might have some concerns about that. So I just thought we could wait till the bylaw, but I think giving them a heads up might be a good idea. So I didn't exempt it because I'm not opposed to it. I'm just wondering about process.
Well, from a process perspective, once we've approved the administration recommendation, then we can consult with the library board to see it, and if there's great objection, we can always reverse the decision later and work with them. Yeah, it's policy, so we can get away with it. Any further discussion on the main motion before we get into the other three? All right, hearing none, all in favor? All right, so that carries unanimously. First committee up on the agenda, we'll defer to Councillor Van Newkirk to speak about sports and rec and arts.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. Just a comment, I guess, around both is around communication and levels of communication. The Beaumont Sport and Recreation Board, outside of the current recommendation, I would just ask that administration revisits the communication with the current BSRA before we continue discussion surrounding that particular board. It seems that the level of communication prior to this recommendation was limited to email, and I would suggest a face-to-face meeting and a phone call and or a phone call to the BSRA, independent of the outcome. I'm more focused on the communication aspect of this. I think that's a reasonable ask. In the same vein, to switch over to the Arts Committee, I just want to ensure that there's discussion in place that has happened with that board as well. It does say that they're going to be discussing at their next meeting, which makes me assume that there was some conversation that happened to have that move forward. So
yeah, arts was the one that I was going to pull out because we're not down that path yet. So
fair. That's right. Yeah. So anyways, so just to be clear, I'm not disputing recommendations here tonight. I'm just asking for an increased level of communication with the BSRA, and just to confirm with the Arts Committee that that they are in fact going to discuss this at the next meeting, and then the administration would be on the receiving end of that discussion. So that's good for me. Thank you.
If I'm hearing this correctly, you'd like to make a motion that we refer this back to admin for further work with Beaumont. I can't remember. I never remember.
Yeah, fair.
Beaumont Sports and Recreation.
Yeah, that's right.
Association and the Arts Committee.
Yeah, confirm the level of communication and bring those recommendations back to us following that face-to-face communication with both groups.
Okay. Are you prepared to make that motion?
I would make that motion, yes.
Thank you. Mr. Hiltz?
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of Council. One of the other considerations on the Beaumont Society for the Arts is that we're bringing back the policy that will also outline commitments from the town and council moving forward, and that will be supposed to come this fall.
Okay, another good reason to delay that one. Discussion on the motion, Councillor Hendricks.
Your Worship, again, way back in the day, we had a similar committee, and at that time we had a councillor and an admin attend these meetings. Just short circuit the whole process. For you talk to the councillor, he'd have to talk to admin, come back to them. You've lost a month in terms of process. So, and then you also got a solid answer right at the meeting, whether or not certain things can be done, can't be done, won't be considered, could be considered. And so perhaps with some assistance from a councillor, but an admin type, somebody
to attend as well. Yeah, it makes sense.
The level of Mr. Hiltzer, however, kind of short circuit the whole process. But worked well in the past.
Fair enough. Any further discussion on the motion to refer those two committees back to admin? Paraphrasing. All right. Call the vote. All in favor? That carries. And I will defer to Councillor Barnhart, who wanted to bring up some items in relation to Beaumont SCSS.
So thank you, Your Worship, Beaumont Community Services Committee is the item right underneath the Sports and Rec and Beaumont Arts Committee. And I brought this up before in past years, and I do think there's a shortage of public input in an advisory way to the delivery of FCSS in our community. Haven't been successful in making that case. However, when I see Sports and Rec and the Arts with a non-voting council member appointed potentially to both of those, depending on what comes back, and then I look at the recommendation coming back from the Community Services Committee saying that we have staff doing this, so we don't need to involve the community in another advisory committee. It reminds me that was the answer that I received in the past, that advisory committees were not the way to go. And so I guess I'm perplexed. If we're going that way for arts and we're going that way for recreation, why is it not okay to go that way for community services? So I'm just feeling that isn't a sufficient rationale not to do it. We have staff doing recreation. We don't yet have staff directly doing the arts, but I think we might have that in the future. So I don't think the explanation, in my mind, covers the need. So I have difficulty agreeing with that recommendation.
So you're making the motion then to strike that committee?
I'd like to have the administration bring that back and look at it again, because it was looked at previous administration, so perhaps now there might be a different view of that. We have more housing being built. We have more need for affordable housing. We have more seniors in our community moving back to be with grandchildren, et cetera. So I think the need for social services is increasing. The need for counseling, we know, is significant. And I'm not saying our staff aren't doing a good job, but I think the community could perhaps do more in terms of voluntary organizations and help and support with that. So I think it's worth looking at further. I'd like to put that forward.
Okay, so you're making are you prepared to make a motion to refer back to admin for further in-depth analysis of how these committees work in other communities?
Well, they've done that, and I would like to see it looked at what could Beaumont do. I would like a report back from the administration on what would a community services committee look like in Beaumont. Perhaps it's a combination of these committees, or perhaps it's some other way of doing it, but I don't think it's sufficient to not have more community input to that area.
Okay. Mr. Schwartz?
Through the chair to Councillor Barnhart, looking for a little bit more clarification on what more research we would do. My understanding is last year we brought back a review of a similar body, and the recommendation was the same. So if there's other information, if you could point us in that direction. I'm not sure what else we would study to change this recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. I couldn't remember exactly, it was last year or the year before, but I think it was under the previous council, if I'm not mistaken. This council hasn't seen that response, so perhaps bring it, if they haven't seen. But I also think that given the impetus to have sports and arts and community services and nonprofit voluntary organizations, that there could be something here that's called a community services committee that isn't just about FCSS, that's more integrated. I think that would be more in keeping with where I'm at, rather than having it siloed. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Van Newkirk.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. Just through to Councillor Barnhart, I hear what you're saying, and I support that, and I think it's something we should look at and consider and revisit again. At this point, I'm not considering or questioning the outcome here, but any more information on that I think would be welcomed for myself. So, thank you.
Okay, so the motion then is to bring back the report from last year, do a quick update, and then have council have another look at it. Is that fair? Does that provide enough direction to administration? All right, all in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Just a quick process question for admin. So this will get updated in time for the organizational meeting in October to implement these changes on the ones that got approved tonight.
With the exception.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, brings us to item number 8, bylaws. Tonight we have three bylaws. The first one tonight is bylaw 904-18, a land direct control redistricting, second and third reading. Mr. Wong.
Okay. So a public hearing was held earlier this evening, and administration supports this amendment to the rezoning application in the Elon neighborhood, Direct Control District 117, Elon District. This application complies with higher order plans such as the Edmonton Metropolitan Region Growth Plan, in particular the 35 units per net residential hectare, and the Municipal Development Plan. It also conforms to the Elon Area Restructure Plan and the Elon Neighborhood Structure Plan. The application was circulated to affected boards and agencies and adjacent landowners. Administration have not received objections to the proposal. The purpose, again, of this application is to accommodate a range of dwelling types and densities in compliance with Elon Neighborhood Structure Plan, while encouraging diversity in build form to achieve a more efficient use of land that would allow for flexibility and diverse housing types that reflect the trends in the region, market conditions, and best practices. The new land use bylaw will not be adopted until early 2019, and a direct control district is required to allow development to proceed at this time. At a later date, the land must be subdivided and further development would occur later on. So bylaw is ready for second and third reading from council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there a member of council prepared to move second reading? Councillor Barnhart.
So moved, Your Worship.
Discussion on the motion. Councillor Hendricks.
Worship, again, to the administration, and I just want to speak to the logistics of collector roads, carriageways, monolithic curb and gutter, sidewalks that are boulevard / separate curb and gutter, and the issue of parking on your driveway so that we're not having vehicles backing onto the sidewalk. And I understand that the setback requirement has changed by this ask, and I understand that there should be an easement from the sidewalk to what we're going to call the property line, and then from there we're pulling back the setback. I just need some confidence that I'm not going to walk into the same problem I had when we had this discussion many years ago with another subdivision that I was told that this was groundbreaking, this was new, innovative, and it's been an issue ever since. So I just want to get some confidence that we're not heading down that same, as they call it, rabbit hole.
Through your worship to Councillor Hendricks, when this applications come through for subdivision, they will be evaluated in light of those contexts. This is just setting the stage for the future development in a wide range of uses and housing types in alignment with our current density requirements.
Okay. And one other question, if I could, and I don't know if this is part of your process, but school boards, do they get a chance to review for school buses, turning radiuses, access to these areas with school buses? Is that now part of your protocol when you put these programs together?
Through your worship to Councillor Hendricks, when the neighborhood structure plan has been reviewed, it has been circulated already to the school boards for their review and comment on the proposed site itself. When the school is announced and the school has actually begun to be laid out, we will work through that process with the school board to make sure that those concerns are addressed.
Okay, so I'm not talking specifically about schools. I'm talking about just the standard collector road, the ability to get a bus down it, and the ability to understand if there's phasing. So if there's phasing, there's a bulb or something at the end, not that there's a debate on whether or not, well, the subdivision ended here, this is how we agreed by way of development permit agreements, and now the town's stuck with having to create the bulb to try to purchase land or do whatever to make this thing happen for the school buses, because the school buses can't back out. Same with the garbage trucks. How do they get around? I just want to make sure the logistics of that, because we had a lot of that in the past. All those people were before saying, why weren't these discussions held prior to the development happening? So.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, we'll note that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Any further discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, call the vote. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Is there a member of council prepared to move third reading? All right, I'll move third reading. All right, any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, call the vote. All in favor? And that carries unanimously. Thank you very much. All All right, that brings us to bylaw 929-18, Beaumont Cannabis Consumption Bylaw for second and third reading. Mr. Cook, Mr. Springham, and Mr. Cook and Mr. Springham. Thank you.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. It's a pleasure to be back here with you this evening. Tonight we're bringing back to council for a second and third reading bylaw 929-18, Town of Beaumont Cannabis Consumption Bylaw. We are seeking second and third reading from council tonight, and as council is very much aware, as mandated by the federal government, cannabis does become legalized in Canada on October 17th. If council chooses to take no action, the consumption of cannabis in Beaumont will be aligned with the Smoking and Tobacco and regulated under the authority of the Alberta Tobacco Smoking Reduction Act. So simply, where you smoke cigarettes today is where you'll be able to consume cannabis. In addition, we've also received information from Alberta Health Services with respect to a letter received that identified in a generic nature the complete or promoting the complete prohibition on the consumption of cannabis. And as council may be aware, our neighbors in St. Albert, distant neighbors, on the 18th of September did pass and signed off on their cannabis consumption bylaw, which mirrors much similar to the Town of Beaumont's consumption bylaw, prohibiting cannabis consumption within their municipality. As council is aware, we've been in front of council many times. Most recently, of course, on July 24th and 28th, council did approve the land use bylaw regulating the sale of cannabis in Beaumont. And on September 11th, we were before council at a regular council meeting to give first reading of bylaw 929-18. Prior to that, on August 28th, and by way of council motion, council did direct administration to draft a bylaw prohibiting the consumption of cannabis within Beaumont. It was also at this time council decided or directed administration to separate the smoking of tobacco from cannabis. As council is aware, we are planning and prepared to come back to council later this fall, revisiting the smoking bylaw. Attached in your packages, of course, is the proposed cannabis consumption bylaw for council to review. Included is definitions, prohibitions regarding the consumption of cannabis in public places. We have included edibles, and with the exception of the use of cannabis for medical purposes, with the exceptions of the use of cannabis for medical purposes, cannabis has been prohibited within the Town of Beaumont with the exception of private residents. We have advertised the cannabis consumption bylaw in the Town of Beaumont newspaper on September 14th and 21st. And this week, upon approval, we are planning a communications plan to roll out an educational program or information for our residents with respect to the prohibition. This time we're asking council to give second reading and third reading to the bylaw.
Thank you very much. Do I have a member of council prepared to move second reading? Councillor Hendricks.
So moved, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Is there any discussion on the motion? Councillor Van Newkirk.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I support the second reading of the bylaw 929-18 tonight as presented. I would like to suggest a friendly amendment, be it the council agree upon a reasonable time, be it 6 months or 1 year, and commit to a review of the bylaw at that time.
I don't necessarily know we have to enshrine that in the bylaw, because I got to admit I have similar comments. I remember being on the losing side of the 4-3. I'm really more in favor of something similar to what Edmonton did, and so, however, I'll bow to council's will tonight, and I will support second and third reading because that's what council wants. And so, when it comes out so we'll let Edmonton implement their bylaw in 6 to 8 months. I wouldn't mind seeing it come back for a quick review and seeing how they're doing, and we'll let them have the pain first. So I'm not sure we want to enshrine it in the bylaw, but from a process perspective, could we schedule a review for 6 to 8 months from now? Sure.
The one thing that I would
want to ensure is that when we come back, like I'd like to see a commitment to review it, because I think a lot of people want to see how things play out in a lot of other municipalities and have a look and see how it works in Beaumont as well. But I want to make sure that when we bring it back for a review, that it's been sufficient time to look back and to share learnings around, right? So perhaps 6 months might be too soon. I don't know. 8 months, or whether it be a year. So I was hoping that there would be an agreement on a time period and a commitment to a review. That was the spirit of my ask.
Yeah, and we'll leave it up to Chief Cook and to determine if we have gathered enough information. But yeah, within a year for sure, we want to see it though.
And I support second reading as presented tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Barnhart, comments?
Thank you, Worship, and thank you to my colleagues, because this is a tough one. It's been a very complicated bylaw to try to figure out, and I would say the preponderance of input I've received from citizens has been to keep the ban. Yet there's been the occasional person asking questions that I don't think we can answer yet. There's so much that we don't know about the edibles and the impact and how we're going to enforce it and what's the cost of it, and just the education part of it alone is a little bit mind-boggling. And the fact that we are on an economic development agenda, and we're okay with stores coming into town, but we're not okay with people using it in public, and just seems a bit hypocritical to me. I understand all of the nuisance and all of the bothering, and I'm very much aware that if you hold the reins tight at first, you can loosen them up, but if you loosen them up at the beginning, you can't tighten them up. So I'll reluctantly go along with the total ban at this point, because I don't think we have enough information. And I do want to see it come back again. I don't know what that timeline is, and I don't know if we need it in the bylaw. Administration will advise us on that, but if we can make sure that it comes back when we know more. We have to see the experience of what's happening in our community, and a designated area would have been something I would have liked to have seen, but I know we can't do that without provincial and federal support for how we would do that. At least I don't think we can with any reasonable way of doing it. So I'm a reluctant supporter. I'm not sure how I'm going to vote yet at this point, but I'll hear what the rest of my colleagues say.
Ms. Schwartz?
I'm going to make a rare process suggestion, and I'll probably get slugged by a legislative services person. A suggestion I would make is, if this gets passed at third reading, that one of the councillors make a motion to identify the time frame and then vote on that. We've got it agreed to. We'll put it in our calendar. It's done by motion and we're good.
Fair enough. Councillor Stout.
Thank you, Worship. I'm support the motion for second and third readings. I would like to see it come back for review, however, and in particular I'd like to see it come back after we have updated the smoke-free and public places bylaw, because that will cover vaping and the smoking of tobacco, presumably, and ultimately I think we need to align the smoking of cannabis and tobacco and the vaping of those products into something that's consistent for all three conditions. So I would like to see it, and I also agree with my fellow councillors that we don't really know the effects of what this prohibition are fully going to be and how it's going to play out. And again, I think we need to review it when we have some data about it.
Fair enough. Councillor Danlock.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, gentlemen, for the presentation. Again, I support also the motion, the bylaw, pardon me, second, third reading. My rationale simply is, as mentioned earlier, it's easier to impose a ban and ease off after the fact than being too weak and trying to impose it after the fact. Many people I know and spoken to the last 6 weeks, people who don't approve of legalization in the first place, of course, oppose public use, obviously. But many people who I know who do support legalization of cannabis don't support having it smoked in public. They prefer to have it as a private residence thing. They support legalization for people's choice. And the rationale is that you have the right to do it, but within reason, and their reasoning is residential use only, as our bylaw stipulates. So I'll be supporting the second and third reading. Thank you very much.
Any further discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none. All in favor of second reading? That carries unanimously. Is a member of council prepared to move third reading? Councillor Danlock.
So move, Your Worship. Thank you.
Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, call for third reading. All in favor? That carries unanimously. As suggested by the CAO, Councillor Van Newkirk, since you brought it up first, prepared to make a motion?
I would make a motion that in 12 months' time, bylaw 929-18 be brought back to council for a review at that time, alongside a report outlining success in Beaumont and pros and cons of the decisions we've made.
And covering experiences in other communities?
And experiences in other communities, yeah.
Fair enough.
Please, thank you.
Legislative source, did you catch that? Thank you. Discussion on the motion. All right. Councillor Danlock.
Thank you, Your Worship. I agree with the motion. I think it shows prudence on the part of council to make a decision and move forward with that decision, and within reason, at a reasonable time in the future, be prepared to review our decisions and make an informed decision at that time if need be. So it shows leadership on behalf of our council. So I thank Councillor Van Newkirk for the motion and discussion by Mayor Stewart earlier with the idea of a revisiting down the road. I think it's a prudent decision. Thank you. I'll be supporting the motion.
Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Worship. And just a question to the mover, is that including financial impact of the implementation of the bylaw, or would you need a friendly amendment for that? Would you consider a friendly amendment if it's not in there?
Friendly amendment would be fine. The spirit of what we're doing is we're revisiting it after 1 year, so if there's another piece of information that you'd like included, I think that could be fair.
Just to see what the enforcement has cost us.
Thank you for that.
Looking forward to that one myself. All right, seeing no further requests for discussion on the motion, call the vote. All in favor? That also carries unanimously. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for all your hard work on this. I know it hasn't been an easy file, and council has been riding a couple waves, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hendricks, do you wish to speak, or do you
just going to go to the
third recommendation? Did I miss one? No, I got it. Oh, sorry, I did miss that one. Councillor Hendricks.
Yeah, so I'll move the third recommendation on Council Director Administration to bring back an updated smoke-free and public places bylaw for review and consideration at a future council meeting.
Thank you very much for spotting that. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Stout.
Thank you, Worship. Yes, I support Councillor Hendrick's motion. I'd also like to suggest that needs to happen before we review before the 12 months review of the cannabis bylaw that we've just agreed to.
I don't think it's going to be a problem. Chief Cook agreed to have it here.
But nevertheless, I'd like to make that explicit.
Okay. Councillor Danlock.
Thank you, Your Worship. Something to that motion. Is there a timeline? Mentioned if I'm having a bit of a...
It's coming back this fall.
Recollection.
Between now and Christmas.
Between now and Christmas? Okay, can we... Before Thanksgiving? No, just kidding. That's only 2 weeks away. But sooner rather than later, please. Thank you. The only reason I'm saying that many people in the public hearings that I attended on cannabis were suggesting that cannabis and smoking should be considered in concert with each other, and we've taken a different approach, which I understand why we did that. But I think if we can get the smoking smoking consideration done sooner rather than later, I think would be in our best interest as a whole. Thank you.
Chief Cook.
To Councillor Danilek, through your worship, firstly, my apologies. I didn't know number 3 was up there, and the excitement of the third reading, I jumped up and ran, so my apologies to Council for that. We do have a few more visits with Council this fall. We are able to complete the request and have it back no later than early November, if I can commit to that timeline. We do need to review other bylaws. I'll be Supervisor Springham and I will be doing that together, and to give Council a detailed and thorough report.
Any further questions? Ms. Winter.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to confirm, as Councillor Hendricks currently has the motion on the floor as it's stated up on the board there, and I am wondering if there has been a friendly amendment accepted by Councillor Hendricks to put in a timeline for it, or if we're passing this motion as it sits right now.
I think we're just passing the motion as it sits, and we'll trust administration that they're going to bring it back on the timeline they stated. Fair enough, Councillor Hendricks?
Worship, my motion stands. My colleagues regarding a request for a friendly amendment.
All right, so call the vote. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Which brings us to bylaw 923-18, meeting somebody. No? Okay. Brings us to bylaw 923-18, meeting procedures bylaw, first reading. Ms. Winter.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to elected officials and members of the public. The meeting procedures bylaw generally provides rules governing the proceedings and regular business of council and council committees. Council has the flexibility in adopting any necessary changes. A review of the current bylaw has been conducted, and administration is seeking support from council on the proposed bylaw and recommending that council give first reading to bylaw 923-18, meeting procedures bylaw. Proposed amendments have been incorporated in the draft bylaw and are presented before you for council's consideration.
Thank you very much, Ms. Winter. Thank you very much for the presentation. There's been a lot of work done on this and some really good amendments that should make council's life much, much easier. Do I have a member of council prepared to move first reading? Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Worship. And I will make the motion, but if you wouldn't mind, I can point to a typo that I found.
Okay, we'll make the motion and then we'll
It's an important typo.
have
I
some
wouldn't
discussion and
yeah.
we'll go from there.
Okay. Yes, so moved.
So moved. You might as well continue.
Okay, thank you. And I'm trying to find page numbers and I've lost them here, but on page 83 out of 103, it's a large meeting procedures bylaw. What it is it's a committee of councillors, and it says the committee is compromised of instead of comprised of. And I thought we might want to change that word. I'm sure spell check picked it up and said that's a word.
It's,
we don't. Yeah.
It's definitely not a good thing to be compromised before you get the meeting going. People go to jail for that. Thank you. We'll look for it. Councillor Van Newkirk, comments?
Well, just a quick comment here. I can only appreciate the amount of work that went into this, so thank you. Just a comment for maybe for the public. Is there a Cole's Notes version or a top 3 or 4 changes or something that we're really looking forward to that we could bring forward and share as part of this discussion tonight? Kind of putting on the spot.
Well, my favorite one is the change that allows members of council to contact the CAO and ask to add something to the agenda, because that's been a major pain point for council, this whole thing. So
perfect.
That's my favorite one.
Perfect.
I don't know if anybody else got anything else. I'm sure we can do a quick summary of changes. Councillor Hendricks.
And to that very point, one of the points noted in here with respect to the precedence of the rules governing the procedure of council is that we're going to be governed under Robert's Rules of Order newly revised, which is in itself an interesting set of rules. So I think everybody should get at least something that speaks to it, because it speaks to positive motions, it speaks to bringing a motion back, it speaks to how those motions can be handled through this chamber, which is a little different than the previous rules.
Can we get an updated version for everybody and a Cole's Notes?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Hendricks. I just want to clarify that with regards to the Robert's Rules, we do follow that if it's not written within the procedural bylaw. If there is an actual procedure in the bylaw that's written for those motions, we follow the bylaw and not Robert's Rules. But yes, we can definitely get you copies of the newly edition of the Robert's Rules.
So not to dig into the weeds, but I agree that we do work under Robert's Rules of Order, but there's the newly revised, and there's some twists to that mainly on motions. And they're interesting to us, and I think we should be fully cognizant of those twists as to how they can be implemented during a council meeting. So, but thank you.
Fair enough. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Councillor Danlock.
Oh, sorry, wrong button.
All right. All in favor of first reading? Ooh, hang on. Ooh, too far. Meeting procedures. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Which brings us to CAO's update. Mr. Schwartz.
See, Mayor Stewart, you suggested a time that we were going to get out of here, and now you gave me the microphone, so.
You really?
You're going to lose.
You're going to do me in? Is that where we're going?
No, I just got a few very quick things. One is an announcement that the planning front desk is now open all day long. If you recall, several months ago, quite a number of months ago, we reduced the hours because of the sheer volume and our inability to turn permits around quick enough because we kept getting requests in. We have changed how we've done business. The development desk is where you get your business licenses, development permits, or any general information on development. So we're able to provide that service now full-time once again. And a thank you to everybody for their patience. It's been a transition as we've challenged with the growth issues that as we face the challenges of the growth issues during the last several months. But customers have been genuinely very good and very patient, and I also thank our staff for the effort they put in to put these changes in place. Back in July, I made a congratulatory comment to Ms. Mohammed to my left here for being elected as the Alberta representative at the CIP, and mentioned that there was also an upcoming election for the president, who she was standing as well, and she has been reelected to a second term.
Congratulations.
Second two-year term. CIP is a huge organization, represents over 6,900 planners, planning type of people, and I just can't help but think what that would look like. Anyway, be nice. AUMA starts tomorrow. A number of councillors are probably heading off there right after this meeting, or certainly first thing in the morning. Great opportunity to network with provincial and municipal leaders, elected and administration. There's been a lot of work done supported by this council and done by Mayor Stewart and an advocacy group, and some of that's going to be rolled out this week, so I'm really excited about it. We were talking about Ms. Mohammed earlier. She is doing a presentation tomorrow on autonomous vehicles, and I saw some of the material she pulled together, and it's actually very fascinating on the impacts that has to potential planning and development in the community. It's really neat. That's all I had. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Are there any quick questions for the CAO? Councillor Van Nieuwkerk.
Very quick through yourself, your worship, to the CAO. Beaumont was in the news tonight. Could the CAO speak to any responsibilities that Beaumont has with the current issue at hand, just for clarity on that, please?
Which issue at hand?
The J.E. LaPointe School leak was in the news tonight on Global TV. And just if the CAO could speak to any responsibilities that the town of Beaumont would have in that regard or not. Thank you. Just for clarity for the public.
Certainly, and I'd welcome the opportunity to do that. The town of Beaumont has been working closely with Black Gold School Division for the last several months as they've been undertaking a $19 million refit of J. LaPointe School. Apparently yesterday, I have not seen it. Some footage took off on social media that's making points to the fact that are the children safe? Are they in a building that is safe? There are very stringent processes that must be put in place before occupancy permits are released or granted. And Black Gold worked again closely with our folks and met all that criteria. And all those permits are in place. Safety systems are in place. I guess that's all I can add at this point in time.
Thank you for the update.
Thank you very much. All right, seeing no further questions, are there any notices of motion this evening from members of council? All right, there are no in-camera items, and we are adjourned.